first things first, we need to, it is that one. This guy on the fire fort, we need to remember to put in a control switch at the very bottom of all these move routes, so that when you come back out here, that this auto run doesn't happen all over again, because otherwise he's going to try to come and get you and bring you back. It's not going to work. So at the bottom here, after your wait for moves completion and your transfer player, in between those, you're going to want to control self switch A on so that he goes away. Alright, so let's finish this. Unfortunately, I had already recorded this and my mic didn't work, so everything is already in place, and I'm going to just try to guide you through it without doing it, and hopefully that will still work for you. So the first thing we did is, last time I think we had put our little guy who followed us from the other map into this area. He guided us here. So we're going to focus on making a switch that is activated by a code that your player would input. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is that switch. So I went ahead and I picked my switch. You can pick, there's a bunch of different kinds of switches you can put in here. I just decided to use this one. And so the first thing that I did was an input number. So that's here. I'll show you where it is. There it is, right here. And you're going to, when you do that, make a new variable. So your new variable, you can call it what you want. I used code, and I said okay. I guess I'll go ahead and do it, and we'll just delete this one. And you want it to have 3 digits. You can have it as long, as short as you'd like, so that the code is going to have to fill in 3 digits that these numbers will be, and then you push OK. I'm not going to because it's already there. Your conditional branch is your next thing that you're going to work on. So you're going to go into, where's the conditional branch? Oh, right here. Alright, so conditional branch. And you're going to go to variable and the code. And this is where you're going to put in the number that you want it to be. So it could be whatever number you want. I decided to choose 545. That was the code that will unlock this switch and make the door open. So we'll just do it again so you can see what it looks like, and I'll delete it, I guess. So you have your variable code equal to 695, and you're going to say OK, and you're going to have this branch of this or this. It says else, but it means basically depending on what happens. So if you put in this number, 695, you are going to set it to change the move route so that this changes, so the little lever goes to the other side. So you're going to go in and insert, or double click, you can do that too. Set move route, and you're going to just go ahead and, like we've done for so many things, you're going to change the graphic so that it switches over to the next animation, wherever it is. So you do to that, to that, to that, or well, I guess I didn't do this. I just wanted it to go to one side to the other, so I went from this to this. Remember to put your wait commands in. In between there, you're going to want a wait command of about probably half a second to a second. I think half a second is what I went with. I find that that works good. So this should look similar to this, and it is. And then you're going to want to put in the control switch for open the dungeon door, because we want it to turn when you put that number in, you want it to be able to turn this switch on for this door to go away. So we'll go ahead and insert that. Control self switch. Oh, not self switch. We do that after. Control switch. And you probably are going to need to make it. So open dungeon door is the one that I used. You can name yours whatever you like. Make sure you select that and push OK. and then you are going to put on a self switch so that this page turns over, this image goes to the other one, and it's done. It makes it stop. Otherwise you're going to have it continuously keep trying to do this over and over again. It's kind of like you're telling it to turn off. So switch A, okay. Or else, if they don't put in the right code, what's going to happen? You're going to say something like wrong code or access denied. Oops. And that's what it will look like. So the next page was our self switch A. I made sure the graphic was the one where it's on the other side so it stays consistent, and then nothing happens. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and delete this because I don't want to online because I already did that. Now the next thing you need to do is make this open when you put that code in. So we have our, how I made this is I used these, this image here in between these gates, and then I found this image of a door under doors. We need to make it disappear completely. So when we turn on that switch for open dungeon door, it switches over to page 2, and it waits 20 frames. It plays the sound of a door closing or a like metal door closing. And then I set move route, and we did the same thing we've been doing. We changed the graphic to the next door sliding over. We wait 10 frames, it slides again. We wait for moves completion, and then we turn on self-control switch A. Because your character is not going to be able to get through here. Because it's still sensing that there's this thing in the way. So you need to turn on self switch A so that it switches over to the next event tab, in which you will have nothing there so that your character can go through easily. You want to make sure that your triggers are on parallel process, and this one doesn't matter because it's just an image. The next thing, oh, and that's same here. You want this to be action button for your trigger. I should have mentioned that earlier, but it's going to be on that anyways unless you switch it. Because obviously you want your player to go up and push the action button to get this going. So how are they going to get that number is the next thing you need to be asking yourself. Well, great question. This guy here, the guy who brought you here, I turned on an auto run, so when you first appear in here, he says, he's in there, we need the password. And then when you go over there, you'll realize you don't have the password, and you go back and maybe talk to him, and he's going to say, we need to help him. You should seek the psychic to the east. She'll know what to do. So you've given a new mission to your player. Make sure it's on action button. Same thing. This is going to be on auto run. So then I put in some transfer players to the other screen. I'm not going to go over that because we've done it in almost every map that we've done up to this point. So I think you probably are well comfortable with that. So the next thing I did was, I think it's under here. Yes. So when we were back at this map, let's back up a bit. We were at the fire fort. These transfer players to the other map, this one actually in particular, this path, the reason why I made it, and you can still add a path on your map if you need to, is going to directly lead to our psychic. But I didn't want our player, to come out of those caves and go directly over here because that wouldn't make sense to the plot of this game. So we needed to make sure that we have a switch to turn these transfers on, which is what we're doing in here in the dungeon. So you're going to turn on the control switch when you walk over this to leave. Psychic is on, and then transfer player. Make sure it's on player touch, and I copied and pasted it all along there, so no matter which one he hits, he's turning the switch on. So now that that's on, oops, these will transfer players, you need to have them set so that when Psychic is on, they will transfer the player to the next map, which they are. Make sure it's on player touch. So I went ahead and I made that Psychic room. Now, as I've said before, we're just making the skeleton of a game. You need to really fatten this up with your own stuff. So what you could do between here and your Psychic map is you need to add some stuff. Maybe a big giant map for them to go through where they're fighting different monsters. And then they get to the house and then they go inside the house. I'm being lazy and just directly sending him to the Psychic's house. So at the Psychic's house, I will show you what we did here. We're going to show you another new thing, and that's showing a picture that you will make. So what I did is I picked my guy, I made sure our action button was on, and I had a text so that when you go up to him and talk to him, he's saying, "I'm having a vision," and then to show a picture that I made. And I can show you how to make a picture really quick right now. So you are just going to need paint, or probably any kind of app or program that you have that makes images. Whoops. And all you're going to do is draw a picture or whatever you want. I drew a very random picture. And as far as size, I found about this size is what you want. You can play around with it to see what works best, but not anything too big, because remember, the square of your playing window is not very large, so you need to keep it small. And to show you where you save, you're going to save to your RPG Maker, wherever it may be for you. Mine's on my desktop. You're going to go into your file, your game's name, and you're going to go into Graphics, and you're going to go into Pictures, and you're going to save it there. That is where you'll be able to access it in your game and use it in your game. I'm going to push cancel because I don't want to actually save this. I don't have the precise measurements for you, but you can easily figure that out by just trial and error. So we have our show picture. Whoops, I'm going to edit that so you can see it. So all I did, actually I'll pretend like I'm doing it again, is insert, and we're going to go to show picture, which is on, I think it's this one. Yeah, show picture is right here on tab 2. And which picture is it? So here he is. This is a really fabulous picture I drew. I know that you're probably jealous of my paint skills. It's a cat with the words 5-4, or the numbers 545 in the middle of him. And then you just say okay. Then you need to tell, you can play with the opacity and the blending and all of these other things. I did not. And you're going to say okay. And you're going to want to wait, so that the wait command is going to tell you how long this picture is going to be on there. And then erase picture. So I'll show you what that looks like. You go to erase picture. And which picture is it? It's the number 1 picture. Okay, delete that. That's all you're going to do. Your character, your playable character, can go up and talk to him and see this image over and over again if they want. Then you can leave and go back to your dungeon, put in your code, and this will disappear. And then this guy, as soon as you're done putting your code in, same switch as the switch that activated this, the open dungeon door, is on. So before that, I just had him on stop animation. He's just standing there kind of waiting. He's going to wait 50 frames. And then say, thank goodness you have saved me. And then the next thing we're going to talk about, and I'm going to, is turning on, we're going to have another encounter with the main villain of your game. And we will go through that in just a second. Oh, and remember to turn on your control switch A, otherwise he will keep saying, "Thank goodness you have saved me," over and over again. Because it's on parallel process and not action button. I also put him on approach so that he would come towards you. I usually prefer to use the set move route, and you'll see why if you ever use approach. It is not a straightforward path that this creature does. He's going to be all over the place before he ever actually gets to yours. It's more of like a meandering than a straightforward path, and it doesn't look as good. I just did that because I was being lazy. So it's up to you. You can use the approach route. It's just not going to look as seamless as you setting his actual route. If you want to set his route, just make sure that he's stationary, because otherwise you're going to run into a problem when you try to get him to move and he's all the way over here and you had set it so that there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places he needed to move. So make sure he stays put until he moves, if you're going to do it that way. Yes, and then we put on the control switch and just left it at this. Okay,